What's up, y'all? There's something in the chat if you guys are here. What's up, Landry? David, what's up? I wanted to try to deploy TanStack start to Cloudflare, and I know there's a plugin to do it. I wanted to kind of do it, figure it out. Hopefully, there's documentation on how to do that somewhere. Is it Cloudflare pages that I want though? Let me check another project. How y'all doing today? What's going on? Cloudflare UENV preset. What's up, Halendra? I think there's a Cloudflare module. Not that. Web applications, TanStack. Whenever you create a new TanStack project, you'll need to make some changes to prepare the deployment for Cloudflare workers. Configure Vite Cloudflare compatibility. Let's just go for this, I guess. I'm not sure if this is the proper way to do it. But we are going to go to our Vite config. Do we even have a Vite config? We do. Okay, and they have a TanStack start plugin here. Probably npm install this. And then going back to this, you basically have to bring this module, I guess. Is config paths? Do I need to, is that already defined? It is. The single configuration change is all that you need to make your TanStack start application compatible with Cloudflare workers. Okay, that's good. Add a Wrangler YAML file. Output server compatibility date. Okay. I don't think I need the KV stuff. Like, why would I need that? Add a deployment script. Which just runs a build and then it runs regular deploy. CF type gen generates TypeScript types for your Cloudflare bindings. Do I need that? I mean, I'll add it in, but before using Cloudflare bindings in your code. Okay, I don't know what the binding things are. Not important to what I'm trying to do. I just want to get a TanStack start application deployed out Cloudflare. I want to see how this works. So I might just be able to run npm run deploy in C. And I'll find module, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so my build is failing. Fail to load config. Don't you love random errors like this? Nowhere in my code base I'm using that. Oh, I have to figure out what's going on there. I guess the first thing I try doing is see any, check the internet for any solution for this error using TanStack start. This is a known issue with TanStack start when using the Cloudflare target. The error occurs due to a module resolution conflict with CSS select package in its ESM import. Here are several things you can try. Update to the latest TanStack start version. Am I not on the latest? I mean, I just did a brand new project, so. Trying to learn effect today. Cool. What's up, George? Esum? Ungy Bungy. I'm going out to the beach to get a tan later, then fishing. Hoping I'll snag an angular fish and see how the wife might react. I don't think I've ever read a sentence with that many puns in it. Sky says, bruh, is software development, front-end development cooked? I see in India they are hiring at really low packages and expect everyone to be full stack. Is this a safe career to pursue? I don't think it's cooked, but I mean, like, I think front end is not as, like when you can prompt AI and have it generate like an entire page based on like an image reference you give it. I think you just need to be using AI more when you're coding front end. I don't think it's cooked though. I mean, someone still has to glue all this stuff together, right? Still learning Go? No, not really. I haven't touched Go in a long time. 1220. Okay, we were on the right tool there. Let me check another project. Man, sometimes coding's annoying. Okay, cannot find module. Did you mean to import this? Let me see if I go to like the TanStack repo first. Maybe there's something here about that. Okay, same error an hour ago. I had the same issue. I had to force PNPM install a lower version of CSS select by adding this to my package JSON. Or yarn for npm. Okay, I mean, I could just add this in. Max programming. Hey, he's actually, I gave him a task. He said he wanted to work with me a little bit and just whatever I might have for him to work on to let him know. And I told him, can you get something deployed out to Cloudflare for me? So he might be doing this work already. I just wanted to do it as well. Make sure I understand how it works, but this must be a new bug or something. Dependencies. Resolutions, okay. You just reinstall. Yeah, that seems like it fixed it. Run a deploy and see if that does something. So it makes an output directory, and I believe that somehow gets it all deployed out. Regular command not found. Why? I think I probably need to install it. Could probably be a dev dependency too. I'll have to move that. I need to update my node version too. Let's move that to dev dependencies. Let's deploy that again. Building Nitro server. You can preview this by saying npx Wrangler. Jeez, what are all these errors? These warnings, I mean. Wow, okay. That was easier than I thought it was going to be. Literally just install a plugin and your stuff just gets deployed out. Pretty cool. Let me log into Cloudflare real quick. All right, so when I did that, I wonder, it probably just made a new worker. Is it workers for platforms? Hey, thanks for the prime. Ariok, is that your name? Hans Ellie Sebastian Fors. What framework is this? Yeah, I'm using TanStack Start. You make a video about authentication TanStack Start. I tried JWT auth and TanStack Start, and it's impossible. It depends on how you're going to do it. I typically just use like a auth provider like Google or GitHub, and that typically just sets cookies. I think they have a starting, like if you go to TanStack Start, I believe they have, if you go to Getting Started or Quick Start, they have an auth example with, they have a clerk one and they have a basic plus auth. Now, granted, I don't know what auth they're using here. You have to kind of dive through the code and understand that. I'm curious if it actually does real auth or not. But if you want an example, I mean, you could just go to my GitHub repo And then go to, I don't know, the learning platform. I guess it's the course platform, TanStack course platform. This is what I'm doing the beginner React challenges in, and this is just using like Google sign in for auth. So you could potentially just look at that code if you want to see how I did authentication with React Query and Google sign in. I think I'm using Arctic and Oslo. If you look at the auth section, let's go to routes, API, log in with Google. There's like an endpoint that sets some state inside your cookies so that the OAuth can do the validation. And then that redirects you to the Google sign-in page, and then you'll get a callback. So I made a callback endpoint, which basically validates those things we stored in the cookies. If everything's good, I believe we generate a token, and then we save that in the database as like a session, and then we return that back. I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit complicated, but you're welcome to go look through that code if you want an example of how to get that started with OAuth. There's also BetterAuth you should probably check out. I hear a lot of good things about it. I just haven't had a chance to try it. Are you trying to deploy TanStack start to workers? Yeah, that's what I did at the beginning of the stream. I just wanted to kind of like verify I can do it, and I did get it deployed out here. You can see here, this is the application that I have over here. Super easy to do, actually. All I had to do was give it this Cloudflare module target, and then I had to add this resolutions because there's a bug with like version dependency issues or mismatch issues, whatever. And then add this deploy command. It runs Regular, and then add a TOML file, which basically tells Regular how to like what files to deploy to TanStack or to Cloudflare workers, like the directory that the stuff's found, whatnot. And then I was logging in to see like where are these workers? And here it is, workers and pages, my start app. So that's pretty nice. And then of course you'd probably want to actually add like a domain in front of this, and then make sure that it's being proxied over their DNS for like bot detection and stuff. Here's your worker. I think you can go and add, I forget how you add a custom domain. I think you just have to go into your domains and point it to like specific port. I did it on this one. Let me see. Domains and routes. It doesn't matter that we don't need a custom domain right now. Maybe just do add custom domain. Connect your worker to a domain or subdomain within the Cloudflare zone. Yeah, so I think if you have a zone, you can just hook it up, which is pretty nice. Oops, zoom in a little bit. I'm working on this AI mobile app, and I'm just wondering, are there some ways to handle GPU cloud running out of memory? It hasn't happened yet, but I'd love to know some tips or trips for this. Handle GPU cloud running out of memory. Sorry, my kid was crying. Wasn't sure what she's crying about. I don't know what GPU cloud is. Like, where you... I don't know what this question means. I really don't know what you mean here. What do you think? Hey, what do you think? Which part of software development is the most endangered due to AI? I don't know. I honestly, most of the stuff we see online, like the content creators who are talking about AI, they're all building small projects, right? I would say AI is really good for small projects, but when you actually get to a large project, you cannot lean on AI too much. You still have to understand how the code works. So I would say AI is really good for like a startup company or like a small scale project, or if you need to build out like a certain type of web page or a website. I think the most endangered software engineers would be the people who are like just building out simple static sites for like a pizza company, like a local business. Because now like you can literally build this stuff out with like no code AI builders. But someone still has to be able to do it, right? Like you have to still dive into the code once in a while and fix it. So I think if you don't know how to actually like write more like full stack applications, that's when you might be endangered. But even so, I mean, there's like, you know, no code website builders that have been endangering that type of field for a long time. So I don't know. You can't 100% code with just AI yet, so I don't think it's really like until you can 100% code with AI, I don't think it's endangering anybody, because the moment you have to dive into the code, you have to know what the code's doing, and that takes expertise. The problem with the modern framework, in my opinion, is you want to build a web app, you need to face these edit config ESLint JS. I mean, you don't have to touch them, right? Like just start with a starter kit or like a scaffold project and that has everything set up for you. And you usually never have to touch it. Like, yeah, sometimes you have to go through and like modify a couple of things, but like usually AI can just kind of like fix the things that you need. Like once this is good, like we just saw me on a stream, I set up this Wrangler TOML file. I probably will never need to touch this again. If I were to keep building on this project, I could probably go a whole year without needing to touch it. As long as it all deploys successfully to Cloudflare and Cloudflare doesn't break anything, or you know the syntax of a TOML file doesn't change, I probably don't need to touch this again. Thank you, thank you. Nice beard, looking good. ESconfig, Firebase RC. What's up, Mr. Ovids? Harish, make some videos on building AI agents if possible. Yeah, maybe. Have you heard of RWSDK? I have not. Can you roast my new Vibe code? Wait, can you roast my new Vibe project? Yeah, I guess send me a link or something on Discord. There was a saying that you need to solve 99 easy problems to solve one hard problem. Okay. I kind of agree. I mean, like, you can't solve harder problems until you solve easier problems. Probably a good saying. Give me a second. Let me check something. Let me change my stream name. Instead of just hanging out, I should probably make some type of keywords for search engine optimization. Answering whatever web development questions you might have. How about that? We'll try that for a title. I run Hessner with Coolify and use Trafic for reverse proxy. However, not sure how I can back up my resources in a reliable and simple way. Yeah, I mean, unless whatever you're using has like this ability to do snapshots of your VPS, you're going to have to do manual backups of your database and backups of how you have your stuff installed. Which is why I typically lean on using Docker and I containerize everything, because if for whatever reason you deleted your VPS completely, to get everything back up and running on a new VPS would literally be like clone the repo and do like a Docker deploy or a Docker compose up, and then everything would just be rehosted. If you have to go through, I guess another approach, if you don't want to have to do that, you could have a single SH script that you can run, which should install Coolify and Trafic and set up your configuration. You should always, at every point when it comes to like deployment, there should be a single command you run to get everything set up and deployed and working. But yeah, I guess it would depend on like what things you do need to back up. Because if it's a Postgres database that's on your VPS, you should probably have a cron job or something that runs nightly that take that, does like a SQL dump and puts it somewhere like S3 or stores it somewhere. If you have files, you should probably do some type of rsync and back those things up somewhere. But then if you start doing all this work, you just think, why did I not just use like a managed hosting provider from the get-go that has all this stuff built in? Like now you're not actually building on your web application. You're spending all this time doing DevOps stuff when you should probably just pay someone who's done it. You know? Are there recent updates on the web starter kit? Have there been any changes in maintaining it with the latest packages and APIs? I haven't messed with that Next.js starter kit in a while, honestly. I need to go back and update it some. What's your strategy on advising on developing an app as fast as possible? What's your strategy or advice on developing an app? I mean, it depends on the app, but I would probably say like have some type of starting point. So like, I don't know, clone a repo that already has authentication set up, some type of authorization, maybe role-based authorization. It has Stripe subscriptions already set up. Like you want to have everything just ready to go, and then you can go and modify it. That'd probably be the fastest way possible. And then I would probably say AI first development. I've seen some good performance gains, or not performance, some productivity gains using AI first development. I don't want to vendor lock in myself to Cloudflare either. What would you recommendations for making the server in the web app secure? Is this like a side project you're talking about? I don't know how to pronounce your name. Kagri? Kagri? I don't know. I think you're asking, like, if this is for a side project, I think you're worrying too much about some stuff. Like, just work on your app and get it deployed somewhere. Vendor lock-in to Cloudflare is not a problem. Especially if you, like, as we saw right here, to deploy to Cloudflare is literally like installing a plugin and you're good to go. And then if I want to switch this and deploy it to a VPS, it'd probably just be like a day of work of containerizing this whole thing and getting it deployed somewhere. So I don't know. Why is Cursor IDE so buggy nowadays on Linux? I don't know. I don't use Linux. But I would assume that they have a small group. I don't know how many developers they have working at Cursor. Redwood SDK Vite with Cloudflare plugin, basically quite nice. This project reminds me of it. Yeah, I haven't used that. If I want to be relevant in the future, what direction do you think I should go as full stack web developer? I don't know, man. Just learn as much as you can about everything. Your Discord on invite link on your site doesn't work. Oh, like on the WebDev Cody site? Does it work on my YouTube? I could try to find you the link. Hold on. Discord. You could try that link, see if that one works. Is it okay to use Supabase on a medium-ish project to handle all the backend and other logics from Supabase? I can't really say too much about Supabase. Like, are you using Supabase as your database host, or are you actually like connecting your front end to the Supabase APIs? Like in your React code, are you like importing the Supabase SDK and then like using that to connect to your data, your tables, and are you using the row-based authentication? Why don't you use Laravel? It's just nothing that I just been kind of so ingrained in the next Node.js ecosystem and TypeScript that like me using Laravel just doesn't make sense, both from a professional and from a side project standpoint. Like my whole YouTube channel has been built around Next.js and TypeScript and Node. So there's no benefit for me for switching over to Laravel. And then for my actual like work projects, that's again in TypeScript, Node. So starting off my career, built portfolio site with some CRM and content management features and one Vanilla.js SPA style project with my own routing implementation for my portfolio. Is it good? It's a start, I guess. I don't know. Again, I can't tell you like when you're job ready, but I would say keep on building something. Like a portfolio site with a CMS. I don't know if it's really high complexity, you know? But if you actually like worked on a web application that had authentication, authorization, the ability for people to upload files, you know, dynamically creating and removing resources, connecting to a database, that type of stuff would be what I would kind of look for. Like building a static site with HTML, you can do that with AI within a day, you know? So you have to show me that you have more knowledge about like, how does a database work? How do you connect to a database? How do you do the typical CRUD application stuff? Like, how do you make API endpoints? How extensive is your React knowledge? Are you using Next.js or TanStack Start? Have you used React Query? How do you use your styling? Do you know about Tailwind CSS? Do you use like CSS in JavaScript? All these type of things. Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for the kind words. Yeah, using Supabase as a database. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. When you say I'm using Supabase as a database, like your application is just connecting using like an ORM. Let's say you're using Drizzle or Prisma or something. You just connect to that Postgres database and that's it. Because if so, then you're fine. Like you're not coupled to Supabase at all. You're just basically using a Postgres host at that point. But if you start using all of their like, you know, higher level abstractions that sit on top of Postgres, that's when you're kind of coupling the Supabase. But your original question, I don't think it's an issue. I mean, people build applications on Supabase all the time. Probably fine. Are current frameworks enough for a good AI experience, or is something missing like Git style diff to improve AI doc iteration? I'm not sure I understand your question, Viz. I think what frameworks need to do is they need to start providing, I forget what it's called, but there's like a, let me go back to the TanStack start. Like instead of having like a documentations page, I think there's a file that people are doing now which has like all the documentation in a single text file, which then AI can grab and like really understand how it all works from that. Because right now, in order for Cursor or Windsurf or whatever to actually understand TanStack start, it has to web crawl this entire site to understand the documentation. Which works, but I mean, like, web crawling isn't something very simple. And then how often do they go through and like recrawl pages as they update? Let me Google. What is that called? I don't know if anyone remembers the name. There's like a file that a lot of these people are starting to add to their websites that AI can use. Maybe Cat can tell me. Hold on. What's the name of the path that many framework and library documentation online are providing, which allows LLMs to understand how to use their tooling? It might just be llms.txt or something. No, this is not giving me what I want. LLMs, okay, that's it, llms.txt. So, like, the idea is that you go to tanstackstart.com, you should be able to say llms.txt, and that should have a giant text file of, like, the entire documentation. But, I mean, TanStack doesn't have it, so, like, you would have to go to, I don't know, Next.js, maybe they have it? No? Convex has it. So here's an example. So Convex, they literally have like a quick little starting point that explains to, you know, LLMs how it can get started with the TanStack. I mean, with a Convex project. I don't feel like they have a lot of documentation in this though. But that's an approach I've seen some people take. I don't know if this is like where we're going to go in the future, of like these libraries and frameworks are going to start providing these llms.txt files, and then Cursor can just grab those to learn how to like code with it. What about Go? What about it? What about it? I haven't been working on Go. I just did like a little Go side quest for like a month. I enjoy using Go. I think it's a good language. Seems simple, seems concise. I like how you can save a file and automatically imports your modules. Like the Go formatter is nice. The module system seems good. It's performant. Spinning off little tasks to run like on different threads. I guess they're, you know, it's like a Go thread. It's like a special thing. I don't know. It's just a very nicely crafted language, in my opinion. But when it comes to web development and you need to build out a web application, like a website, which involves a front end, I just don't think the tooling around Go is built very well for that. Like if you want to build a REST API or a backend service or some type of like microservice, I think Go is a great solution. But if you want to be able to not context switch between various languages and just stay within the TypeScript Node ecosystem, that's why I would probably pick something like TanStack or React with Node in the backend. Is it the most optimal, the most performant? No, but I don't have to context switch I don't have to learn two completely separate ecosystems and package managers and syntaxes just to be productive. I can just stick to one. So that's why I don't really use it on my channel. I'm just more productive if I just stay in this ecosystem that I'm in. I just learned Python. I want to continue using it, but more on the back end. Should I still try to learn front end then? What's the path I should take if I want to focus on back end? You can stick with Python. And in my previous project at work, I worked on for 6 months, we used Django. It works. I mean, it's super fast to build out a site, a dynamic server-side rendered site. Like the ORM that's built in the Django is pretty great. I just don't like dynamically typed languages, honestly. I just think using a statically typed language like TypeScript, Java, C#, like AI can just work so much better over it because it can just fix the typed errors as it's like generating code. And then typed languages are just much easier to maintain from a project management perspective. Like personally, I would not pick Python or JavaScript or PHP for like my primary language for my projects. I just think the type safety is not there. It's not good enough. Have I tried Cloudflare containers? It's really good. Is that where you can actually like deploy a Docker container to Cloudflare? I heard they're trying to make that. Did they actually release it? I need to try that out. What's your opinion on Astro? I haven't really used it enough. I mean, I made like a simple static site with it. It seems like it's pretty good. But again, it's just like a deviation from what I'm used to. And I don't see a giant benefit of me switching my stack to Astro when I'm already kind of embedded in Next.js and TanStack Start. But I think their approach with like islands is pretty good. Where do you open source contribute in web development so that someone notices me and offers me a job if I am doing good? Yeah, I don't know, man. I would just say be active online, like on social media. You should be replying to people on X. You should be on Discords that are related to coding. Get your name out there so people know who you are. The more connections you make, the higher chance you're just going to get offered a job, you know? Like people would rather hire someone that they've actually like talked to and worked with than try to hire some random resume that came in through HR. Are you still working on your side projects? I try to. I kind of been going through, I don't know if it's burnout. I just need like a break from this channel, you know? I'm a junior React developer. What is your advice for me? Like, what should I focus in on React? I would just build something. Build a large-scale project. Like, think about something large you could build, and then every day, just 20, 30 minutes, try to add features to it. Yeah, I think this is a good reply. The point of doing open source is contributing without expectations. In return, once you understand that, then only you are ready for contributing to open source. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't contribute to open source just for like trying to get a job. You should do it because you just want to like dive into larger projects and try to understand how you can help out. If you're making good contributions, people who maintain the open source projects, they could probably refer you. So that's always good. Satyam says, using React Query Supabase as DB, auth, edge functions, get hashnode API for both read, write, DeepSeek, a little implementation for trickling enhance my blog. Okay. There's a nice example of the LLM text in Cloudflare docs. Let me check that out. Okay, yeah, this is a good example of it. And this is just a bunch of like links. This is like a sitemap basically. Interesting. What do you think, or have you tried doing web development for local business? No, I don't do freelancing. It's just not worth it. Like the amount of overhead of trying to find clients and then like communicating with them, and then they're probably not going to even have that much money to pay you for a website. I just don't think it's worth it. At least from the best path, in my opinion, is to just find a corporation or a big company and just try to get a job there. Especially if you want to have job security and you want to have a family and have a stable income. Like, I think that's the best path forward. Obviously, it depends on where you're living. If you're living in outside the US, maybe doing freelancing on Fiverr, like let's say you're living in India or some other country, finding clients who live in the US who would pay you a lot of money where your cost of living is lower. That could be a good strategy as well. But if you live in the US, I think the best option is to find a secure job at a corporation or something. Build has the docs in plain TX for AI to use on their website. Okay. Thank you, Ernest. I think Shopify pioneered this LLM TXT thing in Stripe, but do not remember. Should I start a production level website on Tanstack Start or just stick with Next.js? I mean, it's kind of your choice. I mean, Tanstack Start's still kind of beta, you know? I wouldn't use beta stuff for production level, personally. But I just, you know, I reached a breaking point with Next.js where I just kind of got tired of using it. I think it's just, it's a little bit overly complex in my opinion. Dare I say over-engineered. Roadmap to learn generative AI as a software developer. That's I don't know if I can answer that question. Like, are you talking about how did they build the LLM generative AI systems that, like, how do you build OpenAI? Or is that a question of like, how do I use OpenAI API to have it generate code or have it generate stuff? I'm not really sure what you're asking there. Sparky, for a side business, does it make more sense to build a plugin for something like Jira rather than building your own app as a solo developer? I don't know. I think it might be easier to tap into an existing strong ecosystem. So like a plugin for Jira, if you could sell that, most people who use Jira are large companies with a lot of money, and they may not think twice about throwing $50 a month or $100 a month at a plugin if it helps their team be more productive, right? So that'd be like a business to business type of thing. It's hard to say. I'm not a business person, right? I'm not a really good entrepreneur. So I can't tell you like what would be more successful. What keyboard am I using? I just use an application called Clack app. It's a virtualized keyboard. Satyam, if someone is into JS for 6 months and has built good projects, should they go for TypeScript? Yes, I think you should use TypeScript. What's up, John Jimstone? If you're doing freelance, you gotta behave like an agency. Do you think, let's see, Quixate, do you think you should learn JavaScript before TypeScript? I don't think it's necessary. I think you could start with TypeScript, honestly. I think you could start directly with TypeScript. The only issue with starting with TypeScript is typically like, how do you run it? Because TypeScript often has to be transpiled down to JavaScript. And so if you're a beginner and you just want to build a simple website, you have to find some type of project that has like a TS config already set up and all this other stuff set up, so that you can actually just start learning it without having to waste your time understanding how like the whole transpiling system works. Or you could use like Bun. I think certain things, Bun, I think Node also just released an update where you can run TypeScript files directly from using Node or Bun, which makes it a lot easier. Like it's a nice onboarding path for beginners now. Yeah, Bun is so simple to use. Yeah. But I think there's so much benefit of using a strictly typed language or a strongly typed language. I don't know what TypeScript is, honestly. Like Java, C#, TypeScript, Go. I would just pick those over dynamically typed languages any day. So like starting to learn how to use it is probably good. What's your opinion on using Convex for enterprise app like ERP? I don't even know what ERP stands for. Hold on. ERP software, enterprise resource planning. I don't even know what that is, honestly. I can't answer that question. Probably fine. I mean, there's probably a lot of stuff you have to ask about, like, does your thing have to be multi-regional? I think Convex only has hosting on East Coast US right now. So that could cross your entire ID out of the box. Like that could, there's a lot of questions you need to ask, right? Before you can just figure that out. How do you get into /start as a freelancer? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Step 1 is finding clients. But how's a client going to hire you if you don't have a portfolio to prove you know what you're doing? It also depends on what you're trying to freelance. Like, I don't know. Maybe I just have a different perspective. I would never do freelancing. I just don't think it's worth it. Unless you find a person who's willing to pay you like the same rate or more to be like a full-time software engineer. It just doesn't sound like it's a really enjoyable way to do like a day job. I would probably do contracting first, like software engineer contracting. There's a lot of companies out there who just want to hire someone and not feel obligated to like give them benefits and have them part of the actual company. So they'll contract people for like a year. That's how I started. Well, that's not really how I started. I started with a full-time job and then I quit and then I became a contractor and they just needed a bunch of like people to fill in positions. And so I helped out with that. And then eventually I switched over to full-time at the company. So I think contracting is probably another good way because there's some companies who just don't want to commit to hiring people, but they'll hire contractors because they can easily fire contractors like the next day if they need to. Do you have any tips for learning in side projects? It's hard to stay consistent and motivated for me after work. Sometimes it's exhausting. Yeah, I hear you. I mean, you just gotta find something you're really like interested in working on. Sometimes you just have to treat it as another job, right? That's kind of what I do for my YouTube channel. I didn't really want to go on a stream today, and I haven't made a video in 7 days. But like at some point you realize, okay, if I want this channel to like keep on sustaining itself, you just have to go and record a video or just go and do a stream. Right? I'm kind of burned out on this channel, burned out on coding, but sometimes you just do it. You know, find a way to be disciplined and not depend on motivation, I guess. How do you think about security when you provide a chat interface on your website? Any routines you are following? We are currently debating having a form that triggers an AI workflow or a chat. I guess my first question, is this a publicly available form or is this behind a authentication, right? So if it's publicly available, typically you want to use like reCAPTCHA or something to verify that it's not like a bot trying to submit the form. But if the form is triggering AI workflows, That I would probably not do that, honestly. I would probably require them to be authenticated. And then you probably need to add some type of like limiting on how many times they can submit the form. So if they're like a user who's not premium, maybe give them 5 free chats or something, and then like you have to cut them off. I'd need more information about what you're building, honestly. But if there's anything in your system that someone can like spam with millions of requests and either bankrupt you because like you're connecting to OpenAI and doing stuff when they do that request, you should have some type of limiter in place. And then often you have to have authentication so you can track a user ID to how many requests that user has made, and you can block them after a certain like threshold, you know? How often do you use AI to code? I'd probably say every day. Especially for side projects and smaller projects. On my project at work, it's like 500,000 lines of code. So I don't use AI as often. Like sometimes I'll use it, like I'll paste an error into AI just to see like, is there something simple I'm missing? Or I'll open up ChatGPT or Claude and like ask questions there. But like on a really large code base, it's actually very hard to just let AI do all the coding for you. Like you end up having to know the code base and how it all works. IDE, I use VS Code. Well, no, I'm using Cursor. How do you deal with conflicts with colleagues related to coding practices? For example, I have a habit of using early returns guard clauses, but my colleagues think each function should have a single exit point. Yeah, I mean, I guess with your team, you guys have to have some type of documentation, like a style guide of how you want to code. Personally, I don't think this is worth arguing about. Like just write a test over the code, and that's good enough. I don't care how the code looks. I don't care how the implementation of the code works. Is it tested? Does it have a unit test that verifies that when you call it, it does what it's supposed to do and returns what it's supposed to return? Then sure, doesn't matter, right? The implementation however you want. I don't care. Especially since AI is basically just churning out code these days, you know? But how do you deal with the conflicts? I would just say, hey, maybe just get into a quick meeting with people and say, hey, let's have a vote. I like using return and guard clauses because I think X, Y, and Z. I think it's better. It's easier to read the code. Then you'll have other colleagues who say, no, I don't think that's a good approach. We should use a single exit point. If everyone outvotes you, then you just have to kind of like, you know, swallow your pride and go with what they want. I think it's much better to have code consistency. So I would just, if everyone on your team thinks you should do single exit points and you're the odd man out, sometimes it's fine to just conform with the team so that you have a consistent approach to the code. ERPs are a new fancy word for SaaS. Okay. Do you think LLMs can do basic level accounting and stuff? I don't think I would trust an LLM to do math, personally. Like, you could use it to get information and, like, examples of how to do the accounting. But I would probably definitely have a spreadsheet or something. There's been many times where I'll ask an LLM to add stuff together and, like, the results are just wrong. So when you're doing accounting, you don't want to be off at all. Ivan says, I remember the software we were using in one of our warehouses I used to work was called an ERP system, so I guess it's just a type of software now. Yeah, it's probably just a specific type of software built for enterprise or something. I don't know. There's so many acronyms in this industry. I feel like business people make up acronyms to make their stuff sound cool. Should I go from React Router DOM? I don't know. I don't use React Router. I think Python allows for types, no? Yeah, I mean, this is an argument I see all the time when I complain about, like, PHP doesn't have types or Python doesn't have types. Like, the languages have the ability to turn on types, but what is your chance of joining a new team or a new project? Do you think they're going to have types in their code base? Probably not. right? Just because a language has types doesn't mean that the entire ecosystem's using them. And I think that's a problem, because if you have 100 projects that don't use types anywhere in their code base, just because you can do the types doesn't mean people are doing them. So that's why I think using TypeScript or using Go or using Java or C#, where the types are enforced, it's just better for a team and a project. Footy Focus, how's it going? Starting a new grad junior full stack developer role this Monday. Any advice for someone new in the field? Yeah, ask a lot of questions. Hopefully the team you're onboarding with does like, I don't know, collaborative coding, pair programming, has an onboarding system. If you feel like you join the team and they don't have anything for you to work on, that would be a red flag for me. Like, day one, I would just try to figure out how do you run the application. Like, you should be able to figure out how to run the entire application if you're getting hired to an existing project. Like, within the first week, like, get everything running on your computer and then like really dive through the code and understand how it works. Use AI to index everything and generate diagrams for you. If they don't have documentation how their code works, use AI to generate diagrams so you understand how some of the stuff works. But yeah, I would probably definitely reach out to people and ask questions. And if your team feels like you're annoying with the questions you're asking, I would, like, that's a red flag to me. They should be eager to bring you up to speed. Hey Cody, how can I gain more experience for my resume? I have completed a 10-month internship, but new jobs still require more experience. Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, you could try to just keep on building something, like build a large-scale project by yourself in your spare time. Keep applying places. Maybe you'll get lucky, and even though you don't have the experience, maybe they'll, give you a shot. I don't know. I'm not really good at giving career advice, honestly. Like, getting your first job is like the hardest thing. Once you have the job, you'll gain the experience, and then it's easier to find a new job after that. But like the breaking into the industry is definitely the hard part, especially now. Like back when I started, I don't think getting a job was that hard. I think 2013 is when I got my first job. And so like, I think the market has somewhat recovered after the 2008 housing market crash. And I don't know how we are in the economy right now in comparison to back then, 2013. I'm assuming it's worse now than it was then. Just keep trying, man. I don't know. I'm so bad at advice. Anthony, I'm getting paid to build an app for my friend. I'm using Laravel and I charge him per phase, where each phase has multiple features. I don't charge hourly like an agency. I sell results. Yeah, this is probably the best approach. That's how I did it. I have done some freelance projects where like people will reach out to me on my YouTube channel and say, "Hey, can you build this for me?" And most of the times I'm like, I really don't want to build this for you, but then I tried anyway for some stupid reason. But yeah, the way I would do it is like, you have deliverables, right? So you say, okay, we're going to add these 3 features. I estimate these to be like, 12 hours of work. I'm going to charge you X amount per hour. And I need 70% up front before I even start on these deliverables. So they give you 70% up front. You add those 3 features, you get them deployed somewhere. They pay you the rest, the 30%, and then you give them access to the code. And then you move on to deliverable set 2, and you keep building upon it. So that the client knows that if they change their mind midway through, it's going to cost them money, right? If they don't have a good idea about what they want built, don't waste my time, don't waste your time, don't waste your money. And so like having these small deliverable things kind of mapped out and agreed upon before you start doing any work is probably good. Or you could, I guess if you're doing freelancing, the one thing I would recommend you never do is don't agree to build an entire thing, and then at the very end of working for 2 months, you get paid for being done. Like, no, you need to get paid for your work. So figure out a way to do that. I have experience with Next, React Native, and Expo. Okay. What's up, Igor? How's it going? Saw your name down here. How do you implement Axios interceptors for both client and server in Next.js? I would just ask AI, honestly. I think you make like an Axios object, and then you can attach interceptors to that, and then everywhere in your code base, you want to use that Axios object. Instead of like importing Axios at the top of your files, I think you actually like import an Axios object that you created with some interceptors already added to it. That makes sense. Just ask Claude. Yeah, exactly. Hey, Cody, are there good opportunities in the U.S. and European Union for Django? I work with it in Brazil, but companies here don't really use Django. I don't really know. I mean, the project I worked on at work was using Django, so I think there are opportunities. What's better for scaling, please, Nest.js or Express? I think they can both scale the same way. I think Nest.js is probably more of like a feature-rich backend framework. But scaling, I mean, you literally just horizontally scale these type of things. You just have a container running your application, you throw it in a auto-scaling managed service, and you just increase the number from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8, depending on how many users are hitting your application. As long as errors are values, then do as you wish. We got a Go developer. A Go or a Rust developer. Doesn't Rust do errors as values? Raju, LLMs don't truly do math. They predict answers by matching patterns seen in training data. Yeah, but I've seen LLMs now, like if you're communicating with ChatGPT, it seems like they actually run agents under the hood when you ask certain questions that actually brings in code and then executes the code over the data you provided it. So I think they're building more sophisticated agents that are like abstracted away from us that we don't know. But still, I wouldn't trust the code that's running over your, records of income, outcome, outputs, or whatever. Hey, using ChatGPT Claude for code review and asking suggestions for better options like optimization with reasons is good practice. Yeah, I think so. I think that's actually, like, in my opinion, a best practice at this point. Like, everything you write, it doesn't hurt to ask these AI agents to review it. And then you run through those reviews that it gave you just to make sure you didn't miss anything. It's almost like having another set of eyes that read your code, especially if you work on a small team or you're like solo. You want feedback, right? You want people to review and actually give you a solid review. And one thing I'd say, these AI agents actually probably review better than humans because, let's be honest, when you're on a team and there's like 30 pull requests open and people are like, hey, can you review my pull request? And you open it up and it has 50 file changes. Like, no one's going to read through all that, right? Like, no one has time to read through 30 pull requests, all with like 20 to 30 different file changes. And so having AI kind of review it, doing like a preliminary review is very beneficial. So yeah, I think you should be doing that. Let's see what's going on in Twitch world over here. In Cursor, how do you allow clicking on class names in JS file to link to locations in CSS file? I don't know. I think there's a plugin that does that though. Or like a Tailwind configuration that does that. I really don't know. I haven't done like CSS files in a while when I'm dealing with React. Like, I just use Tailwind. I'm guessing you're doing some type of like Emotion or StyleX or something where it's like CSS and JS approach, or CSS modules maybe. Or are you just talking about like, I don't know what you're asking, honestly. I charge 40% up front. I mean, charge whatever you feel comfortable with, right? But whatever your client, like you have to decide what your client feels comfortable with. If your client trusts you and they really want something built, they'll have no problem giving you the 70% up front. I've even have clients give me 100% up front. They're like, here's the money, just build it for me, because they trust me. If you're just starting off, you might not have that trust, and so they don't want to give you a bunch of money up front. But again, your deliverables should be small enough where like they're not giving you like a ton of money up front. They're giving you like enough to get that set of deliverables created. I think the 70% up front just kind of makes the client more serious, you know, because you don't want to do all this work and then they just ghost you. So 70% up front is like, okay, these people are serious. They're willing to give me a bunch of money to get the job done. I know I can get it done. That's why I like my wife is the one who actually suggested to do the 70% on everything. I was thinking about how boring it is to manually add the meta SEO stuff. Yeah, definitely use AI to do the tedious stuff. There's a lot of tedious things we do in coding, and just remembering to use and leverage AI to do the tedious stuff, it just make you more productive. Do I still accept freelance work? I mean, I haven't done freelancing in a while, but I feel like the work would have to be interesting enough for me to do, you know? But I'm kind of like spread too thin, right? I can't do my full-time job and then also try to do a YouTube channel and also try to do my side projects. I got so much going on that like if I were to start accepting a freelance stuff, something is going to suffer, right? Something's going to have to get put on the back burner. And then also the freelancing job would have to pay more than a sponsored video on YouTube, because like I'd have to do the math. When I can make one sponsored video on YouTube and make a decent amount of money, like, is it worth for me even working on these little side projects that people want built? Probably not. What is your take on being a specialist or a generalist? I think a team needs both. Like, it's good to have specialists on your team who are really good at like databases, or one's really good at accessibility, or one's really good at front end. And these specialists can help really make sure that the code is, you know, scaffolded in a proper way. But then the generalist is good at just like jumping around through various things, and they can kind of just get stuff done. I think they're both very useful. I think larger companies and corporations typically want specialists because they have something that's really complex. They need someone to come in, like a consultant or a contractor, to like really understand the nuances of Postgres or RDS or AWS. And they can come in and help fix the project, or like take the project to the next level to save on costs, or to make it more performant, or to make it more maintainable. So yeah, a specialist. But for smaller companies or smaller projects, probably having more generalists is good. Like if you were to make a startup company, you want people who can just quickly jump around from one thing to the next as bugs prop up, or as like different feature requests come in. You know, if your team is like, you got a front end specialist and a back end specialist, and then the back end specialist decides to quit, your company's screwed, right? Because you had this guy who has all the knowledge and he just left. So having generalists helps cross-pollinate knowledge on your project, which kind of makes your project more resilient for churn, or for like, you know, hit by the bus factor. Again, these are just my opinions. I think they're both good though. I think a specialist is going to get paid a lot more though, but it might be harder to find a job. But actually, let me take that back. Most, if you go and look through job like posts, usually they're looking for a specific type of person. You know, it's like, oh, we need a person who is good at back end and cloud engineering, right? Or, oh, we need someone who's good at front end. So I guess in terms of getting a job, I would just look through the job postings. If you see more specialist jobs, then probably you should specialize in something. But I think most companies just, they put too much in their job requirements. Like, let's be honest. Like, you can't hire someone who's good at everything. Let's see. Any alternatives to GitHub, please? And can we build a large project without using it? I mean, what's that alternative for GitHub? I forget what it's called. CodeBucket? No. Bitbucket? Is it Bitbucket? That's an alternative to GitHub. Bitbucket. What do you think about Cloudflare Sandpack? I haven't used it. I don't know. Yeah, a T-shaped developer. What's up, Bobby? Got my team to adopt Convex after a year of hyping up. Everything is so easy. Plus, some of them have been watching your channel, so thanks for the help there. Yeah, glad to hear it. Hey, thanks for the super chat, my man. Thank you, Mark Anderson, with the $5 super chat. Or super comment, I guess it's called here. No, it is called a super chat. Yeah, I'm glad you guys are using Convex. Definitely a good service. What are the good use cases for Kafka? I mean, Kafka is like a large scale like message broker, right? Like an event bus. So if you have like multiple microservices that need to communicate with each other, you could probably put Kafka in there. It's just like another type of like RabbitMQ or ActiveMQ or AWS SQS/SNS. But it's just built for scale. Like it's really good at like scaling up your different events and partitioning them so you have like resiliency. I don't know if I actually gave you a use case though. Like, I guess a use case could be like when a user registers, you could send off like a registration event to Kafka, and then you could have these various other things in your system that listen for a user registration event. Like you could have an email service or a notification service that when a user registers, I then send off an email to them to give them like some discount codes or give them some other stuff. I could have like a marketing service that captures that a new user registered and does some type of like AI analysis on their sign up information and then give that information to like my marketing team. So maybe someone can like contact them specifically. I don't know, stuff like that. It's just a way to decouple your systems. I already know React and have used it at work for years. Is it worth learning Svelte or Vue for side projects, or should I fully lean into React? I would just lean into React. I have nothing against Svelte and Vue. I think they're both really cool solutions. I just think that the benefits of switching from React to one of these is very marginal. So like once you learn how to use React, it's such a big ecosystem. There's a lot of React developers. I don't think you're going to get a huge productivity boost from using Vue or Svelte. In fact, there may be a decrease because it's a smaller ecosystem. There's less third-party libraries. I guess just keep that in mind. But if you just want to use them to learn about the different approaches to achieving the same thing, like they have different paradigms of how state is stored and how state is reactive. So it's good to at least try them for a couple of days to understand, okay, like the immutable approach of React state, that's just one approach, but Svelte and Vue do it a different way. Like they have mutatable state, and understanding how you can build web applications with a mutable state approach is really nice. I worked 2.5 years IBM mainframe and then 3-year gap doing farming to find who I want to be in life. Now I want to get into the field again as a web dev. What is your opinion? Yeah, it's going to be might be a little challenging. I always hear that once you leave the industry, it's very hard to get back into the industry. Like when people see that you have 3-year gap, they're going to be reluctant to hire you. But that doesn't mean you can't get back in. Like you should try to get back in. I'm just wondering, like on your resume, if there's something you could just like pretend like you're filling in that 3 gap with, something tech related. Like, did you do any type of like learning on the side? Just so you have like a good reason as to why you decide to do farming. Because to go from 2.5 years doing IBM mainframe to 3 years of farming, that's a very interesting career change, and I'd be curious as to why you did that. But yeah, if you want to get into web dev, I mean, like start learning, reading about web dev, learn React or Vue, build out web applications, build out REST APIs, understand the lingo, start learning about cloud services, learn about these different like open source tools. Yeah, no problem. Have a nice day as well. Anthony, I charge 50% upfront. I would never do 0% upfront. What's your point of view of one person company or something like a solopreneur in tech industry with the help of AI and coding, DevOps, and marketing sales? I think it's possible. I mean, you could probably be a one-man company now more than you could ever before because AI is just making stuff so much easier. I think you just have to like be really on top of learning all the different AI tools that could help you spend less time with certain things. Like maybe you could vibe code an entire application, and in terms of marketing, maybe there's tooling out there that automatically writes your emails and sends them out every week, so you don't have to spend time doing that. But I think you'll reach the point where it's like quality versus quantity. Like AI is good, but I just don't think it can really make quality marketing stuff. Sometimes like cold calling people and talking to them face to face is going to be way more beneficial than like sending out cold emails to people. So it's hard to say. I mean, I think you could do it. I think you could build a one-man company, especially if you're working full-time doing it. Like that's your only thing you're doing. But I will say it is nice to have one person who also works with you that you can bounce ideas off of, and they can pick up the slack that you're not able to fully do, right? Like if you're spread too thin, that means you're going to like, excuse my language, half-ass everything, right? And it's better to have someone who's like 100% doing it the best they can and getting it in front of people than to like be spread too thin and not being able to do a good job with whether that be coding or marketing or design or what here you know whatever. Vite with TanStack Router or TanStack Start for a real-time chat app. I mean, at this point, TanStack Start is what I would use for everything, but I mean, it's built on top of Vite and TanStack Router, so I think all these terms are kind of getting like kind of fuzzy, right? They're all built on top of each other. At my company, I signed a contract that says I can't do any work for other companies, so I can't even freelance. Well, that's fine. Just work for the company, you know? Yeah, you gotta be careful when you get a job, like, you gotta be careful what you sign. And for how long. Like, sometimes they'll sign like a non-compete, and they say like for a year, even after you quit, for a year you can't compete in the same industry. Like, that can really screw you over, you know? Like, your job is like, you know, to make money, provide for your family, and then you sign a contract that says you can't work in any type of company that does hosting. Like, okay, that kind of cuts down a huge swath of things, and so now you have to go and switch to a whole different niche. As a junior JavaScript React developer who's built a no-code form builder, Google Forms, but with more customization options for a single-page app implementation of vanilla. What do you think? What do I think of what, though? What do I think? Yeah, when you say what do you think, like, I'm not sure what you're asking. Like, do I think that's enough to get a job? Genuine question, is setting up your own Docker-based CI/CD pipeline with a VPS always a pain that sometimes just fails, or do I just suck at it? I guess it depends on what it fails on. It shouldn't be failing. Like the Docker build should work every time. If it runs locally, it should run in CI/CD perfectly fine. Pushing that image to somewhere should work every time. Telling your VPS to pull the new changes should work every time. I mean, sometimes you have like small little network issues that you have to rerun, but it shouldn't be happening that often. If it's happening a lot, I think there's something wrong with your design, maybe. Which stuff/app building did you absolutely enjoy doing? Honestly, I would probably enjoy building games the most, but I mean, that's not going to pay the bills that well. What app did I absolutely enjoy doing? Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't think the app is as important as the team you're with. I think the team that you're working with is much more important in terms of like enjoying the work. Like you could be working on some boring application, but if the team is, enjoyable to work with, they're all talented, you can have nice technical discussions with them and everyone can kind of follow along. Like that is much more important than what you're building. Do I do freelance work? Not really. Who is the greatest software engineer in your opinion? Honestly, probably someone who's not on social media. I think there's tons of great software engineers that I've worked with them. I know there's people out there who just aren't on social media. And then also, like, I don't even know how you quantitate, like, greatest. Like, what does it mean to be the greatest software engineer? Like, I'm thinking some of the people who built Microsoft or built, like, operating systems, they're pretty good engineers, I would say. Like, you have to be a pretty good disciplined engineer to build, like, Linux. Would you recommend using TanStack Start in production? I think they might go to production soon this year. At least that's what I've heard from the grapevine. So I think soon it would be good for production, which is why I've been kind of using it more this year, is because, like, I think it's good. Also require Angular or React, GitLab, Bitbucket. I think I'm super far behind. What time is it? Yeah, I'm like 10 minutes behind in comments. Sorry, guys. Have you found any cons of TanStack Start when using it? The biggest con is, like, it's kind of confusing. Like, the kind of confusing, the documentation is, like, all over the place sometimes. The naming convention of the files can be a little confusing too. Like, you have, like, you can prefix with a minus, you can put a suffix at the end with the underscore to kind of escape out of the layout. You can do a route.tsx file, or you can do a index.tsx file, depending on if you want to use layouts or if you want to not do layouts. You have pathless layouts. You have nested folder structure for your routes. And then you also have, like, inline. It's just, it's kind of confusing. It's really confusing. But once you feel like you have a decent understanding on it, it's kind of nice. So it's just getting over that hurdle of, like, okay, what the heck is all this stuff? Like, why do we have an underscore here? Because probably you want to break out of the layout that's used for here. Probably an outlet somewhere, or maybe this one. I don't know. But overall, I mean, it seems like it works. I built a couple of things with TanStack Start. Seems like it all works when I deploy it. It doesn't seem like it randomly crashes at all. The type safety is really nice. The server functions are much better than Next.js. Like, it's just super intuitive to call a server function. Finally, I got my current contract to adopt Convex as well, so I can build their CMS. Convex made life so much easier. Nice. I'm glad I have slowly converted people over to use Convex. I really want to learn system design. I only have a few knowledge currently. Maybe design a system or a small store. Yeah, I mean, just try to. I think one thing that's good for system design is like the system design interviews. There's a couple of YouTube channels that do those type of interviews, and it's worth just to try them out yourself, where they ask you to build something, and you can like, what database would be the best for this type of thing? Would you want a NoSQL database, a Postgres database? You want to use like a graph database? How would you scale it up? How would you design this on like AWS? You know, what services on AWS would you use to get this all deployed out? So I think doing those type of like interview challenges can really just help you learn more about system design. At the end of the day, it's just a bunch of circles and lines, right? You're just drawing boxes and lines and connecting stuff at an abstract level. Thoughts on Gleam for full stack? I have not used Gleam before, so I don't know. GraphQL is great. Why do people hate it? I've never used GraphQL before, so I can't answer that. What is your take on Java, Spring Boot for the backend? I mean, I used Java, like Enterprise Java in 2013, and it just felt like an overly engineered, complicated mess. So, but that's, you know, that's over 10 years ago when I did that. I think it's probably fine now. There's a lot of companies and projects that probably use that same type of stack. Mimosadi? I don't know if I said your name right. I'm a front-end developer, very enthusiastic about AI, thinking to practice more hands-on AI projects and become an AI engineer. Do you have any suggestions or roadmaps? Yeah, I mean, I guess just get good at knowing all the different types of like services that provide chat completion. So like Claude, OpenAI. There's tooling that can help aggregate all those. I forget what the name of it is, but there's like a startup company that you make requests to that, and that is going to go ahead and like hit the different LLM models. Understanding prompting, understanding agentic workflows, like N8N is probably something you should start playing around with. I don't have a roadmap or anything though, but I think just building more stuff with AI and understanding how it kind of works would probably be beneficial. Hey Cody, I've been working on a job 10 months with React Fast API and Docker. What should I do to get to the next level? I want to become like a CTO or something. Yeah, I mean, you have to just basically learn as much as you can about everything. Like to become a CTO, I feel like you have to basically be an LLM. Like when someone asks you a question, like you have the answer already. Like that's, to be a chief technical officer, I think you have to be that good in your domain that you literally understand like how everything works. Like why would you pick one tech over the other? You've played around with all the different tech. And not only that, but I think you need to have experience like working on larger projects with various tech. So yeah, just keep learning, I guess. I don't know. Do you think Angular will make a comeback? I don't think so. Would you recommend using Drizzle for production? I am currently using Prisma. Not sure if migration and learning is worth the effort. I don't have a good enough reason looking for one. No, I think Prisma's fine. Honestly, for a production application, I think picking Prisma might be a better choice than Drizzle. Prisma's backed by a large company with a lot of money. Drizzle's like an open source project. And the one thing that I have seen with open source is that after a couple of years, the maintainers decide to drop what they're working and move on to something else. So that's a legit concern when you're dealing with like open source stuff. Prisma, I used Prisma for a while and it worked really well. So it's just a different paradigm of like the ORM and the Prisma file, the DSL they provide with you versus Drizzle's more like all in TypeScript. So it's kind of nice. You don't have to context switch between Drizzle and their domain specific language and Prisma, but I don't think it's worth migrating, honestly. Just stick with Prisma if you're good with it. Mark says, can you share how you would think about hosting something like this? I built and always have been hosting a project for a niche community, FPV drones, for 4 years. It's using a heavy Python library, SciPy, and only gets like 40 to 50 users a day. I use a VPS. I've avoided serverless because I assume cold starts would hit everyone. I would like something more low maintenance. Interested in how you would think about this. Is this like a web server? I know this question was asked like 20 minutes ago, Mark, so I'm sorry. You gave me a super chat and I didn't even like answer your question. 11:51 and you answered that asset at 11:30. My bad. Yeah, I mean, I would just containerize your application. If it's like a service, just containerize it and deploy it to some type of like managed hosting service. You know? It just makes it easier to scale it up, so you don't have to manage a VPS. And then your database, I would probably put it on a managed database service as well, so you have less you have to worry about. Something that already has like automated backups built into it, restores built into it. It'll cost you a little bit more money to host it, I would think. But I mean, you can scale it up by just basically like clicking a button to change the number of instances from 1 to 2, and now you can handle double the traffic, hopefully. You probably did a video on this, but what is the simplest tech stack that also isn't too limiting? The simplest tech stack? I don't know. Simplest is such a subjective term, but Django, Laravel, those are very simple full stack frameworks. Has everything you need out of the box. I think those are the simplest ways to build an application. It will be a little limiting, especially if you need like a really not feature rich, a really interactive application. It really depends on what you're trying to build. Maybe Laravel, and then when you decide that you need to have more like rich client-side functionality, you can use there's something that they use, Inertia. I think it's called Inertia. You can use Inertia so you can start bringing in Vue or React or whatever for your client code. But Laravel with Livewire, it's probably super easy to get set up, easy to use, and it can probably get you quite a long way. Yeah, Mark's probably gone now. Let's see. Guess I messed something up. Thanks for the insight. At my company, these MFs have React components with 4,000 lines. Is that normal? It depends. I mean, like that sounds like a component is pretty big. Anytime you have a function or a component that's like a ton of lines, I would probably think of I would probably say that it's doing too much. Like, is this a component that you're trying to use on multiple pages? And then like it has different booleans in the props, and based on the boolean, you then like render different stuff and change how it works. Like sometimes it's better to have like 3 completely separate components that might do somewhat the same type of things, instead of having like thousands of branching if statements inside a component based on, okay, this is a special type of modal or dialogue that has a certain type of exit button now, you know? Like just split it off as a separate component. It makes the code a little bit easier to maintain. I meant enough to get a job and show a good grip on front end with Pure.js. As a junior JS React developer who built a no-code form builder, Google Forms, I meant enough to get a job and show a good grip on front end with pure JavaScript. Yeah, I mean, you could start applying places. I can't tell you if you're going to get a job from what you built. To get a job, there's like so much more. It's about your resume has to get through the paywall, or it has to get through the HR gatekeeping. And then the team has to read your resume and then decide that they want to bring you in for an interview. And then during the interview, they're going to ask you questions. You have to be good at answering their questions. Make yourself sound confident in that you know what you're talking about. And then at the end of the day, they might say no because you said something wrong. You know, it's like that simple. You can literally get rejected because of some one sentence or thing you said that just put someone off to hiring you. So, I mean, just start applying places now. Like, You might get lucky and someone brings you in and really likes your energy and likes what you built and thinks that you'd be a good asset to the company and they hire you. There's also people out there who haven't built anything and they get a job. You know, it's just like luck. You manage to get interviewed at the right time by the right company who's really looking for someone. You seem like you're energetic. You seem like you have the personality to fit in the team and they hire you, you know? So don't think that, don't ask yourself, oh, am I ready for a job yet? Just go apply places and just keep applying places and hopefully you'll get lucky. I'm working on a component library right now using Turbo, Radix, TypeScript, and Tailwind. Last one is kind of a pain and because there's no proper way of bundling Tailwind styles. Yeah, I think that's a problem with like building a component library with Tailwind is how do you export all those styles unless someone else is using Tailwind as well. Or unless you're building like a Tailwind specific component library. Has anyone seen the scam where you get offered a crypto web dev job and the take home task has a script that tries to steal your keys? Saw it twice, don't run the, that's crazy. Yeah, people will do anything to steal your crypto wallets, huh? Probably also why you should have a separate crypto wallet, like a USB plug-in crypto wallet, so they can't just like find your keys. I'm now doing a master's degree to reset my life. I think going to Web3 crypto or React Native expert like any niche would be much better than have 3-year gap. Yeah, I think niching down would probably be beneficial. Like if you want to be a React Native developer, it might be easier to get to land a job. Probably a less competitive space, you know, versus like a web developer. You know how many people learn HTML and CSS and JavaScript and then want to get a job? Very competitive in this web dev niche, I think. I'm a web dev and I like creating projects that would actually solve some problems that either I'm having or someone else. But all my projects have been C# Go. Does this help for web dev job? I mean, yeah, I think so. I guess it depends. In Go and C#, are you building out APIs, like services? Or are you building out like desktop applications or something? As long as it's dealing with web dev, like you have a REST API, you're connecting with third-party services, you have some type of UI or interface or CLI tool that can connect to these things, I think you're on the right path. I am the only developer in my company. Is that normal? I don't think so. Maybe it's just a small company. Hi, Cody. Good places to find long-term freelance projects. I have no idea, honestly. Dev burnout is something else. How to recover from it? Yeah, I'm kind of going through some burnout for my YouTube channel, right? I think it's just good just to take a break. But you can't take a break when you have a job, so. Yeah, I don't know, work out, exercise. I think when you're burned out, I think it's more than just like being burned out on the job. I think like it's your mind trying to get you to do something new. Like it's just not, your mind's just not stimulated, you know? And sometimes to fix your mind, you have to go and like work out your body and exercise and go running and stuff. Get the endorphins released. And then the burnout kind of goes away. I meant a job switch and those projects do have real users / downloads not paid. What was your question? Yeah, I mean, I think you're good. I think once you've already had a job and you know how to code, it's not as hard to switch into web dev. As long as you like in the interview, you kind of seem like you're interested in it and you're excited about it. Hey, Cody, what would be the how to vibe code the front end? Any advice? I mean, just use cursor and drop in images of what you want and it just builds out the front end for you. Hey, Cody, what would be the best approach to upload big files in Next.js hosting over Vercel? I'd probably use like S3 pre-signed post or R2. Like generate a pre-signed post URL, give it to the client. The client can use that to upload directly to S3, have it expire after like 10 minutes so people can't abuse it. and store all your assets in S3, honestly. Recently had issues with analytics. I want to get deep knowledge in React and front end. I've been working since 2 years. I want to understand the concepts behind how it's working and why. Any sources to recommend? Yeah, I'm assuming you have to go to the React code base and like, step 1 is read through all the React docs. Like you should have all the React docs read through. I think they go into like more technical detail and stuff, and then find blog posts that really talk about like the reconciliation process of React and the state management and the event lifecycle of React. That's probably a good start of what you should do. I recently had issues with analytics calculations because it was very CPU intensive. I thought I could use Node worker threads, but Next.js bundles my code, and as far as I could tell, no way to circumvent the bundling. It also depends on where you're deploying Next.js. Like if you're deploying it to Vercel, they're going to be running stuff on workers. Honestly, having a queue system where you can like fire off an event and then have some other thing process those events might be the easiest approach. It's going to add a bunch of extra complexity to your project, which is unfortunate. But it's probably the safest bet because you don't want the CPU intensive task basically taking down your entire application for all your users. What do you think about Martin Fowler? Yeah. I mean, he's like one of the OGs. Martin Fowler, Uncle Bob. I think it's good to understand like some of the things they're discussing, like the test-driven development and like the agile processes and the extreme programming, agile programming. I think it's good to understand where they're coming from. These people who are older in the industry, they've been here for like 40 years. They have a different perspective on how coding has worked. And it's good to like understand where they're coming from and not write them off. Will my degree matter or my skill knowledge in project if I have master over this? How can I crack the interview? I don't think the degree matters too much. It's just knowing how to like talk about the things that you need to do on the job. And then also just being a good interviewer. Like that's just a skill you have to learn. Like how do you communicate with people, answer the questions that they're going to ask you. That's just something that takes practice, right? It's a skill thing, interpersonal skills. Yes, moving body and hike reduce stress and it brings mental clarity in life. Yeah, meditating, going on a hike, stuff that I say you should do, but I haven't done myself. I need to actually start exercising. What do you think about the latest hype of AI automation business with no-code tools like N8N and Make? Everyone creating agencies around that. Yeah, I don't know. I need to do more research into N8N and Make. I haven't used them yet. I think it's good to just keep them in mind. It's good to understand the paradigms of them. I don't think we're going to get away from coding at all yet. So these type of tools, like, they might be very useful for people who aren't good at coding. But I haven't used them, so let me not talk about them. They could be completely game changing. I don't know. Imagine coding by drawing circles and arrows between your like different workflows, you know? Like that's literally what code is. It's just a bunch of like, here's a process, now pipe the output to another process and then pipe that output to another process that sends out emails or saves it to a database or does this X, Y, and Z. Like that's literally what coding is. It's just like we don't have that visual form of like a graph of how the code actually executes. So N8N, I think, is a better representation of how the code works and it's from a higher level. So I think it's good to at least try it out. Best way to learn code right now from 4.2 with code with AI should be focusing on system design, Arc backend, fundamentals. I think typing code by hand feels a waste of time. Yeah, I mean, typing the code by hand is just not useful anymore. You should be able to think in high-level abstractions, and then you should be able to prompt AI to write the code for you. And then reading through the code is the valuable part. You need to read through the code and understand it and how it all kind of ties together. That's always been the valuable part, right? The writing the code has just been like a means to an end. There's no other way to get the code onto the text editor unless you manually write it. But now we reached a point where AI can basically churn out the code for you, and you can just review it and prompt it with high-level prompts to get it to be changed, you know? Yo, can you create a video on how to create a app with your own without watching a video, please? Yo, can you create video? How to create a app with your own without watching a video. Oh, so like how to get out of tutorial hell? Like how to actually build a project without watching a video? Yeah, it might be hard to do, honestly. Like the only way to build a project without watching a video is like when you have an understanding of how it all kind of works. But how do you understand how it all kind of works? You have to like just build stuff and get stuck. And spend a whole day trying to debug something until like it finally just all connects together. If I live in Spain, do you think there's a way I can work with US companies to make a lot more money than local salaries? Yeah, I mean, you could probably just reach out to these different companies. I think startup companies are more willing to hire people who work in other countries. So like go and read about them, see if they have remote positions, and then try to interview and say, hey, I work in Spain. Do you think Next.js will fall in part away in a few years? No, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's a pretty big ecosystem. And I think Next.js is really good at looking at new innovations in the industry and adopting them into their own. So like when people complain enough about things in Next.js, they actually change it. That's one thing I'll give Next.js and the Vercel team is that when the people using Next.js complain a bunch, they actually go and they change like the stuff. Like the whole caching approach. People complained about caching for the longest time and then they fixed it. Will you judge me if I do a Walmart delivery? Hey babe. What you need from Walmart? I'm gonna get off the stream here. I use a restroom and I'm tired. I've been streaming for 2 hours. But no, I won't judge you. Go ahead and get Walmart. Do you think it's useful to create a good prompts for Cursor? Recently I got a job and I've been working there for 6 All right, I'm sorry. I gotta use the restroom and I've been streaming for 2 hours, so I'm actually gonna just end the stream. I know there's a bunch of questions coming in. I do plan to stream tomorrow. I'm gonna be pair programming with someone, building something, so that might be fun if you guys want to stick around. 12 o'clock tomorrow is the planned time. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, join my Discord. If you guys want to ask some of these questions to me in Discord, maybe I can get to them, but I'm gonna go ahead and drop. Have a good day, everyone. Happy coding. And